So hello, everybody who's participating. Thank you for joining us on this lovely afternoon. My name is Sarah Willitson. I'm an adult services librarian here at Prescott Public Library. And today we have Janet Wilson here with us from Prescott Gardener, as well as Earl, Duque, and Delisa, Myles of Delicious Earth Farm. And they're going to be talking with us in a moment about seed starting. But before they begin, I just wanted to let you all know, if you don't already know, that the library has collaborated with Janet and Kathleen from the Farmers Market to start a seed library. And we hope you have a chance to visit it soon if you haven't already. It's located on the second floor of the library. There's some great seed options in there right now. And we're looking at getting some new seeds in May for the new seasons. We're going to be taking questions at the end. So feel free to write your questions in the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a desktop, it says Q&A. If you are on a mobile phone or smart device, whatever, there's going to be 3 dots down there. If you click on those, that will get you to your Q&A. Type the questions in there, and then at the end of the session, I'll read off your questions and they'll answer them. And without further ado, you guys can take it away.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're just going to be chatting about how to start seeds. We're going to cover inside starting as well as outside. We've decided to just do sort of a discussion format between the 3 of us, and then we'll turn it over to you for questions. So yeah, let's start talking about tomatoes, or it's probably the most common vegetable grown or fruit grown in gardens, in backyard gardens. So yeah,
thanks for asking us to do this.
Yeah,
and I'd love to talk about tomatoes.
Yeah,
those are the seeds that I've been collecting probably for 8 years now.
Nice.
From the same one tomato plant that we were given when we were in Flagstaff.
cool.
It's a Ukrainian type tomato.
Wow.
And so it was such a good tomato that I started saving the seeds
Nice.
from it.
Cool.
And so the way I do that is I just cut up a really favorite tomato, a big one that I like, and just squeeze the seeds out onto a paper towel.
Nice.
And or else just wipe them off the counter.
Great.
You know how you always have a pile of
Yeah.
them. And just let that paper towel dry.
Nice.
And then put it in something waterproof like a jar.
Great.
And then the next year I don't soak them or I don't do anything, but just let them dry. And then I peel them off of the dry paper towel when I'm ready to plant.
Nice.
And just put them in wet soil.
Great. Cool.
And that's kind of what I've been doing. And then keep selecting the best and favorite
Nice.
tomatoes,
Excellent.
the biggest. And
Cool.
so we've gotten up to sometimes like 1.5 pounds.
Wow,
Tomato.
that's
They're
a big
ones.
tomato.
Yeah.
Well done.
So that's why we save.
Cool.
And I don't know what that first tomato plant was called, so we've just kind of renamed it.
Nice.
And we
what's
call
that?
it Delicious Earth Heirloom.
Perfect.
Because we've been
Nice.
doing it for 8 years.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you start under lights or using a windowsill?
Windowsill.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
we have done it different ways, but this year we're doing south side, just
Great.
sitting in the window.
Awesome.
No heater pads or anything. This
Cool.
year we've tried
Cool.
it lots of different ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes on pads.
Totally.
Sometimes like really under a dome. But this year I didn't do any of that.
Cool.
And they just seem like they're doing
Awesome.
great.
That's ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And oftentimes you'll have like more than one seed come up inside and you'll just prick them out and take them out, put them into another
And
and
they're
transplant
pretty-
them. Yeah, they
Yeah,
transplant really
pretty
easily.
Cool.
to transplant.
Cool.
Yeah, you wind up giving them away at the end of the
Yeah.
season
Yeah.
or at the beginning of the season. It's like, oh, I got too many, you start giving them away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
And when I transplant them almost to where the leaves are. So that
Nice.
long, the stem, it gets a little spindly
Mhm.
sometimes. So I just really sink it in there.
Cool.
And that makes it a little bit more
Yeah.
sturdy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, those little hairs on the stem are actually they turn
Roots,
into the
yes,
roots. Yeah,
yes.
they're fun to transplant for sure. And peppers, do we want to chat about those?
Yeah, we've been
Yeah.
collecting. We grow Anaheims,
Nice.
Italian sweet pepper, poblanos, and we've been saving the seed from those every year. So it's just
Awesome.
been collecting them. Well, actually, sometime we'll just string up our chilies on a rista, and then it's like, oh, there's more left up there. So now it's time to see. So I'll just grab a couple pods and break them open,
Cool.
and then I'll put them into. I've used soil blocks in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten away from that because it's too much work.
Yeah.
But they were worked really nice, but it took a long time to make them.
Should we talk about what they are?
A soil block?
Yeah.
Sure. A
Yeah.
soil block is made by a special tool called a blocker, and you press the soil down, and it makes a compressed block of soil.
Yep.
And what's nice about it is that there's a nice little divot, and you just drop the seed in the hole.
Yeah.
You don't have to cover it,
Right.
and it'll just sprout, and the roots will grow straight out to the end of its airframe.
Yeah.
It worked pretty good, but it just
Nice.
took a long time to make.
Yeah.
And that saves you from not having to have all those pots.
Exactly. Yeah. All
But
the
it takes
plastic.
time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've also heard those can be tricky here. I don't know if this was your experience, but keeping them watered well enough because we're so dry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that can be tricky.
Yeah, you have to have a nice fine sprayer. That's what I make sure to have too in the greenhouse when I'm getting seed starts.
Yep.
My hose is connected to a nice fine hand sprayer.
Yep.
To start to be able to get so when I spray things down, they don't get washed away.
Right. Good call.
That really
Good
helps.
call. Yeah.
And we use trays
Nice.
for the greenhouse a
Mhm.
lot, and pretty much start everything in trays
Mhm.
except for carrots.
Except for carrots. Yeah. Yeah. There's a difference between direct seeding into the garden in the springtime and the summertime versus starting things inside. Some things, root vegetables don't really like to be, they don't like to be started indoors or in cell trays or anything like that. Just put them directly out into the garden when the seed packet says it's time. Yeah.
And with carrots, I really like the pelleted carrot seeds. Have you used those?
I haven't.
Oh my
no.
gosh. It is so much
Yeah.
easier.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then you don't
Okay.
have to thin them.
Right.
And that's always so painful to
yeah.
take
Yeah.
out all those.
Totally.
So those carrots are like
Yeah.
these tiny little seeds,
Yeah,
right?
though they're
So
tiny.
with the pelleted, it's covered with some really nice material. So one seed becomes like an eighth of an inch
Oh,
sphere.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you can actually have precise seeding.
Yeah. Cool. Cool.
And you can do it by hand. Just seed it out.
Nice. Much easier to handle.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
So I got get those from either Harris or from Johnny's.
Nice.
A lot of places offer those seeded ones.
Excellent.
So I might try to get some pelleted lettuce this year too.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, tiny seeds.
little tiny seed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you start your peppers before your tomatoes or?
After this year.
After this year.
Whenever you can. Yeah.
Because I already started the tomatoes.
Yeah, I just started Anaheims
Nice.
last week. You gave me those ties the other
chilies,
day.
Yeah. They're
and
great.
I pulled a couple of poblanos off the Rista the other day, and they're in my seed bag right now, ready to be broke open. And put in.
Nice.
So
Cool.
I'm gonna try chitting them out.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chitting. We could talk about chitting.
Okay.
That's a term. The way I chit seeds is you start them. It's kind of that classic, elementary school project where you start seeds in a paper towel and you help them sprout and then you plant them into soil and to let them grow. And some benefits with that, if you've experienced planting a whole cell tray with all your seeds and only half of them come up, then you have empty cells in that. Whereas when you chit them and you sprout them, you can plant the sprouted ones that are, most likely to keep growing and then.
That's I have
Save yourself,
I have a tray that's like an eighth started.
Yeah,
like, what the heck happened
yeah,
here?
then you have all that empty space. Yeah, so it's a fun one. Things that I'll chit inside are the I'll do peppers and eggplant and tomatillos and tomatoes. I think it's pretty fun. It's sweet
Okay.
to watch them start growing.
More
too.
successful.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I've experienced. You can keep them in a warm spot when they are starting in the paper towels. So my way of doing that is I'll take a paper towel, I'll get it wet, and I'll wring it out. So it's not super wet, it's just damp. Put the seeds in there, fold it up, and you can put them into a Ziploc bag or something that's just going to keep them sealed and keep that moisture in there. And just keep an eye on them to make sure they're staying damp enough, and keep an eye out for their little root tails to start coming out. So
Yeah, we do the same thing with corn, right?
Yeah,
nice.
that's the only one we've really done that
Cool.
with.
Cool.
And same thing. You can tell which one looks like they've got a good start or
Yeah.
which ones haven't at all.
Nice.
And those are the ones you put in, and we've been really successful
Cool.
with the corn doing
Excellent. When do you chit the corn?
June.
Nice.
Yeah, we made a
Uh-huh.
mistake
Yeah.
of planting a little too
End of
early
May,
one year.
June.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You got to plant it like in June at the earliest,
Yeah.
and because we've lost crop before if we planted too early,
Mm-hmm.
and we grow like 5 different varieties over the years.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's all grinding corn
Great.
because I can't ever harvest the sweet corn at the right time.
Yeah.
I might as well have grinding corn.
There you go.
But yeah, we have a blue Jemez. We have
Lovely.
this one corn from Guatemala called birth and death corn.
Wow.
We have a couple of Hopi corn.
Nice.
So we're just kind of cycling through those different ones each year,
Cool.
and it's good. We make different breads and different breads.
Nice.
And
Stuffing.
breakfast cereal.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
really good.
versatile.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
really good.
So awesome. Yeah. Let's see.
And the potatoes too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about potatoes. 'Cause I think that a lot of people are interested in growing them, but there's mixed.
What do you do? I let them sprout.
I let them sprout. I'll cut them and let them callus. So that's letting them dry for a few days and then just pop them into the soil. That's your,
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
I made a mistake one season of we had a bunch that were down in the basement
Mhm.
and they had like the white sprout out coming up, and we planted that a little early, and then we had an empty row.
Oh yeah.
That was not good.
Yeah.
So,
That's
but you want the root to be like dark and thick, right?
right.
Right.
Yeah.
So not white.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I favor getting the smaller roots and not having to cut.
Nice.
I favor
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because I've had too much problems with when we cut.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, letting them sprout. We have some of ours sitting in our dance floor, just staying warm, and they're nicely
Nice.
shitting out and getting good roots.
Good.
And we're about to do another 20 pounds right now to let you know.
Excellent. Yay.
On the dance floor.
On the dance floor, yeah.
Good.
Next to the squash that's on the dance floor.
Nice. Are you planting out your potatoes soon?
I have some Kennebecks from last year. We'll be putting those out. The ones we just got this year.
Mhm.
I have to get them sprouted. So
Nice.
Probably take a couple
Cool.
weeks, right?
Cool. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about lettuce is a fun one to grow.
mhm. What do you like doing?
I like to just scatter seed that, and you can use a flat, so that's just like an open container. Scatter the seeds, and they transplant easily when they're really tiny, and then I will put those outside. We could talk about hardening off in a little bit too.
Okay.
And then, but you can also use cell packs for those, the little 6-packs that you get, your plants from the nursery in. You can use those and plant them out, but I do like to start them inside just to get them a good head start, and then put them out,
Yep.
plant them out into the garden. Yeah,
Yeah, we use either cell packs or soil blocks.
nice.
And one thing I learned was you don't want to cover the seed.
Right.
Just kind of
Mhm.
put it down in the hole. I don't even, once I put them into a little hole, I don't cover. I just spray it with water,
Perfect.
and that's enough. And like I have some I just put in 3 days ago, and they're already sprouted.
Yeah, they're fast.
Yes, lettuce
Yeah.
sprouts fast. So
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't know you can prick those out though. So they transplant
they
well.
do. Yeah,
okay.
I've done some experimenting with that, and they they transplant just fine. Yeah.
Okay. What's the minimum size when you can transplant to another area?
About that big.
Okay.
You know, so they've got, you know, their first set and second set of leaves coming in. You know, they're the stocky little thing, but not too, you know, not those first die-cut leaves.
And when do you like putting them out?
Now,
I mean, how big?
about this big.
Really?
Yeah, and they'll transplant out and just kind of take off. I do cover them out in my garden.
Okay.
And they do fine. They take off once it starts to warm up a bit. You know, at first it seems like they're not really doing anything, and then as it warms up a bit,
Right.
they just grow.
Yeah, we're getting ready to transplant here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
We have about the two trays ready to go out.
Great.
With that. And then broccoli rabe. Have you had much success with broccoli rabe?
I haven't dabbled with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I asked because I haven't had much
Yeah.
success with broccoli
Yeah,
rabe myself.
broccoli's really tricky here.
Yeah.
But tell me about your experience with it.
Well, my worst experience, not with broccoli rabe, was
Yeah.
when I tried to grow cauliflower.
Oh yeah.
So I had like 100 row feet of beautiful
Oh,
cauliflower
wow.
plants. No heads. It was just,
Oh no.
they were like 3
Yeah.
feet tall. Do you
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah.
year?
Oh
Yeah.
no.
It's like, oh wow, Dee, look at these beautiful plants.
Yeah, broccoli,
But no heads.
cauliflowers,
It was-
yeah, really tricky.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it can get really hot really quickly.
Yeah.
That stresses them
Yeah,
out.
Prescott, I don't know. if it's
Yeah,
the place
we're
for
not
those.
the broccoli capital. It's not
Yeah.
our. Yeah.
But cabbage is good.
Cabbage does well here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Yeah. Thanks for those cabbages last year. Those were good.
Yeah, glad.
Made some good kimchi out. Well, no, we
Good.
made sauerkraut last year.
Nice.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah.
But cabbage is an easy one to grow.
It is. Yeah, if it started early
Well,
enough.
it's easy to start,
Yeah,
and then the aphids love it.
they do. They do love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have tricks you do for your aphids?
I use diatomaceous earth.
Yeah. Nice.
What about you?
Spray them off. Try and just
Oh, that
clean them
too.
off as best I can. And
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, let's see. What else
Yep.
do we like?
And Dee
Should we
does the
talk-
flowers and herbs.
Flowers.
Yeah, let's talk about flowers.
Yeah.
Well, you save zinnias.
Gosh,
and-
zinnias
Nice.
and larkspur.
Oh,
Larkspur
it's
like
wonderful.
crazy.
Yeah,
Larkspur's a weed.
I
it is.
love
But it's so
larkspur.
wonderful.
I love the
It's
color of
beautiful. It's a
larkspur.
stalking like purple flower. It's really
know.
purpley blue. It's
Yes,
gorgeous.
and
Yeah.
lots of seeds.
Yeah.
I know.
And so this year, instead of just letting them fall where they may, I
Uh-huh.
collected all of them
Nice.
and then put them more conscientiously where I wanted them to be. So I see
Nice.
them coming up everywhere. right
Good. Yay.
Yeah.
They're fun.
now. So yeah, what else do I like to grow? Sweetgrass.
Yeah.
That's not.
That's really.
I did.
Yeah,
I
cool.
did start sweetgrass from seed.
When did you start that?
They were in the refrigerator. You
Cool.
know, they have to have a cold.
Stratification.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I only had 2 out of the whole pack
Yeah.
start,
Mm-hmm. That's
but
impressive.
I've got a huge patch back here.
Nice.
I've got 2
cool.
huge patches
that's
of the
so
2
fun.
ones that made it.
Yeah.
So-
cool.
So that was a fun one, but I don't know. Some herbs are kind of better to get a start, like oregano or
Yeah.
rosemary.
Mhm.
But I love we're switching to herbs right now, I guess,
Nice.
instead
Good.
of flowers.
Yeah. No,
I
that's
also
great.
love doing basil, all
Wonderful.
different kinds
Yeah.
of basil.
Do you start them inside or do
And
you direct seed?
Start them inside
Nice.
because they're also really cold sensitive.
They are. Yeah.
So I like to give them a little start
Good.
before and put them out like maybe mid-May.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
What else? What other flowers? Just like Mexican hat, and
Wonderful. Yeah.
they do really well.
Mhm.
Just spread.
Yeah.
Sunflowers everywhere.
Sunflowers.
Sunflowers,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I don't do anything to save those seeds. They just come back.
I know. I
Yeah.
have to keep pulling them out of the vegetable garden.
Yeah. Sweet.
Although I do use them it's good for shade. You know, like sometimes we have to have some shade in some of the rows.
Cool.
So we'll keep the sunflowers growing and they'll kind of shade some of like the chard and what else needed shade? The chard and lettuce in summer.
The squash.
Squash. The
Mhm.
squash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Squash is fun to grow.
Yeah. Do you start your squash indoors and
Oh, yeah.
transplant out? Nice.
Yeah, it's-
About how early do you start them?
I probably got it pretty soon, but they won't go out until like June.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost like a whole crop.
Oh no.
Remember that time a couple of years ago? It snowed on
Yeah.
my birthday, June 13th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
It just
we
Uh-huh.
lost
this
a
whole
lot.
area
Oh,
here was
dear.
just wiped out.
Oh no.
That was bad.
Yeah, that's something. The plant out date is an interesting thing here. A lot of people say Mother's Day and you're safe to plant things. And I try and steer people away from thinking that way because we get, like Earl said, a late snow in
Right.
June, or
Right.
some weather will come through and wipe things out. So being prepared, if you do plant out early, being prepared to cover the garden with frost cloth, sheets, anything you have, because that can be a pretty devastating early loss.
Yeah, I'm always watching the temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch that weather,
Yeah.
particularly if you're planning out at Mother's Day.
Yeah.
May and June, you just got to watch it,
Yeah, definitely.
and you got to watch it until then you start watching for when's the rain going to come,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
and then September you're watching again if
Yeah.
you have stuff out because you can get a hit with the really cold snap.
Oh
and
yeah, definitely.
knock out stuff, and it's like last season. Remember we said, "Oh, we gotta get the tomatoes off." Right?
Yeah.
Remember that? Oh, we gotta get the chilies off.
Yeah.
You gotta
It's
watch that.
Definitely.
September, October.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk about hardening seeds off, like when you start them inside and then putting them outside can be a pretty harsh transition if they just go from your nice sunny windowsill and then out to our extremely strong sun and the wind and the cold. And hardening off is a process. It's a gradual process of putting your transplants outside and slowly introducing them to the elements. If you have any inputs on that process, but
Yeah, for me with the vegetables, I'll put them out for a couple hours.
yeah,
And then put them back in.
yeah, it's
And
fun
then-
dance.
Yeah, and it's actually I start in the morning,
Nice.
and then I over like a week, I'll increase it to like the whole day. And
Yeah,
then sometimes I forget. Like, oh, I left them out.
right. And they survived, or they didn't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Totally.
But yeah, I've made some mistakes.
Yeah,
in the past.
we all do. It's
Yeah.
it's a grand experiment. It's gardening stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you garden off your flowers and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I just let them sit out for
Nice.
maybe a couple hours,
Yeah.
and then a little bit longer, just
Mhm.
watching them too and see how they do.
Right. Yeah.
And then maybe just leave them out when you're about ready to put them in. Leave them out for a whole day and night.
Yeah.
Let them just have a whole cycle
Nice.
and then put them in.
Yep. Yeah. So that's hardening off. If you want to like look it up and do some more further research, it's not as scary as it sounds when it's but it can be a little, just watching them
Well,
transition.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of like your skin.
Yeah.
Like you don't
Right.
want to, if you're pure white and you want to get a tan, you don't
Yeah.
just do it all at once.
Yeah, definitely not.
Maybe just a little bit at a time.
Right.
Till
That's
you
a
get used
good,
to it.
true. Good call. Yeah. Sarah, what's our time at for now? Should we?
It's about 3:30. We do have three
Oh,
questions if you want to start with those.
Great. I
No.
think that, yeah.
Well,
Nice.
we're back fast.
Let's do that. Unless there's anything else.
What else?
I'm going to start with the most recent one just because it's
Great.
closest to what you were just talking about. They would like to know about starting sweet potatoes specifically, like how you would go about starting one of those.
Do you want to
Go.
talk about it? Or do you-
Go for it.
Cool. So there are two ways that I recommend starting sweet potatoes. Have you grown them before?
Oh, sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
Sweet
Oh,
potatoes.
I have no. I haven't
Yeah.
had
We
any success
tried
with
last
those.
Okay, they're
Yeah.
really cool. So you can get them at the store. I actually was just over at Natural Grocers. They have a Japanese variety and that's like a white flesh one, and then they also have a purple one. Both of them will do well here. So you can either just stick them in a glass of water, kind of the lower half submerged in water, and make sure that stays wet, keep it full. And within a week or so, they'll start to sprout little eyes, and then those will turn into the sweet potato vines, and just keep letting those grow. until we're getting close to our plant out date, which I'd say like mid-May, but like Earl said, watching the weather is a really good idea with that. So then you'll cut those vines and you can soak those in water so they propagate and start to grow roots. And then you'll harden those off and plant them out into the garden. So it's a bit of there's some steps with it, but those vines are also edible. So once they really get growing, you can cut and use those the way you'd cook spinach and greens. So those they'll spread on the ground, or you can trellis them up or let them grow over the side of a planter box or container. So that's one way. The other way is to lay them on their side in some kind of growing medium, whether it's potting soil and whatnot, and kind of nest them in the soil about halfway deep, and then they'll start to sprout the vines that way. The nice thing about that method is they'll already start to grow their roots off of the vines, and you won't have to do the step of soaking the vines in water for them to root. So they're really fun, and I love that you can eat the greens. They're delicious. They're like nice, tender, very spinach-like. And then you get your sweet potatoes at the end of the season. So
Nice.
yeah, they're a fun one. Yeah.
All right. So the next question for you, Pam would like to know, how long does it take to take some tomato seeds to break the soil surface? Should the soil be always kept moist?
Yes.
It takes my seedlings about a week
Mm-hmm. Same.
to break the surface, and definitely keep them moist
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole time that it's growing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they
They
don't
like
like
to dry it?
real wet roots. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Damp.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I would say if it's been like 3 weeks, maybe it's time to pop in some more seeds and try again.
If
But
you haven't seen-
a week,
Mhm.
2 weeks, something that could slow the germination rate would be if your house is colder
Yeah.
or they're in a colder location, that could slow the process down.
Because you had yours at the house temperature was about 72, and it's on that sill, so probably like 73, 75 degrees, right?
Yeah, and then I put plastic over it until I saw some
So-
leaves, and then I took the plastic off.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
comes out pretty quick.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
week
Yeah.
is usually
Yeah.
when you start seeing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next one is about, like, when you were talking about your flowers. So Anne wonders, do you just hand cast larkspur seeds, and are they perennials?
Yes, larkspur seeds are perennials, and I do just gather them and throw them where I want them to grow. I wish I could turn the camera because it's like they're right there.
There's a whole patch
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
there they are.
Yeah.
They're coming up.
Want to show it?
Nice.
It's okay.
Yeah, they do very well here.
Mhm. And they're gorgeous, like pinks and
Yeah.
purples and blues and
And they-
striated
Yeah,
colors.
they're incredible.
And they take over the vegetable rows.
There you go.
We have a
Yeah.
larkspur war going on.
Oh well,
Yeah,
I hope
larkspur and
Larkspur
sunflower.
wins.
The larkspur and sunflower wars.
Yeah.
Get rid of those.
Nice. Yeah.
So we have a follow-up question about sweet potatoes. They want to know how long it takes sweet potatoes to grow to maturity.
You'll harvest those at the end of the season, so just before frost. Their vines are super frost tender, so if
Yeah.
you get even the cusp of freezing, they're done. So then you'll harvest them, I'd say just right before frost. I have harvested after frost, and since the tubers are in the soil, they're fine, but especially get them before a hard frost.
And they want full sun too.
They do. I actually grow them on the rooftop at Elgato. They're a
Okay.
fun,
wow.
they're a really fun container plant too. So if you want to add like a nice lush, but heat and sun tolerant, they're actually really drought tolerant too. They're
Really?
a great plant. Yeah. Yeah, you'll see them spilling over the containers on the rooftop.
We
up
should try
there.
that this
We
year.
should.
Yeah.
Last year
you
was
should.
horrible. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
They're
bought
fun.
slips, so I'm gonna try.
Yeah,
it.
don't buy them.
Yeah, okay.
Just
I'm
start
trying
them.
growing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the next one, Vicki would like to get a start to finish, from like starting seeds to finish, for basil from seeds, and then also in general how you would do wildflowers. But start with the basil.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just see them probably about right now, about the beginning of April. And it's nice if they really have some warm soil. So if you can put them on a heating pad to start, that's really good. And then after Mother's Day or after the last frost, if you want the start to finish, maybe put them in a 1/4 inch deep. And they take maybe a little longer to start. I don't remember.
They're very
exactly.
slow to
Maybe
start.
2 weeks or 3 weeks even.
Yeah.
And then I try to spread them out a little bit when I'm ready to transplant them, gently pull the roots apart. And they can take a lot of sun too. They like a lot of sun, but you have to keep them watered. And then what's so great about that is you can have basil all summer long. Pretty much you can just
You're constantly pinching.
pinch off this flower at the top, and then it'll just kind of bush out a little bit more. But I love basil, and I like planting different colors, like the purple basil and the bright green right next to each other. I don't know if that is the start to finish. I probably skipped
Well, with the
something.
tomato, in between, we're harvesting tomatoes and then roasting them and putting the basil on them.
Yeah, there's the finish.
Yeah. There's the finish.
Yeah.
Sure.
And my experience with basil, I've done both. I've started them inside and outside. And I've had pretty well equal success with both. Starting them outside, I think one of the things that I see most often is just like the infrequent watering. You miss a day or you miss a couple days, and just that dry period can really make or break the success of it. And what I've done is I'll just scatter them in my garden out directly on top of the soil, and just lightly work it in on the top of the soil there. And then every single day, sometimes twice a day, if it's super, super dry, I'm watering with a hose nozzle that has like a nice shower head on it. So like Earl was mentioning before, you're not, spraying it with a fire hose kind of thing, scattering that seed everywhere. You're just lightly keeping that top soil moist. And then once they come up, sometimes they will come up in like a dense patch here and a bare patch there. And I'll just scoop out a clump of them and lay them in my hand and kind of work the roots apart, like Delisa was saying, and transplant them so that they have the proper spacing. And I think both methods work really well. It kind of depends on what you're set up to do inside versus out. And, if you have space to start them inside, it's all, you get a head start that way. But yeah. And then anything else with basil? Just make sure you harvest it before frost, because
They're
that too
cold
will
sensitive.
just turn brown as soon as it gets hit with frost. So
But you can use it throughout the season. Just keep taking it.
And I also dry them. I pull out the whole plant when it's about to freeze and turn it upside down and let it dry.
Oh, cool.
And that's a really nice way not to lose it.
Totally. Yeah, I usually right before frost will just go mow them all down and take them in with the food processor. And I just do olive oil and basil, and I pulverize it until I get like a pesto consistency and put it up in the freezer that way. So that's a nice
No nuts and
just keep it simple, and then you can kind of take it any direction you want when you thaw it.
That's
So
nice.
Dee does a herb mix with.
Oh, nice.
Yes, a dried herb.
Yeah.
mix.
Ooh, that
delicious
sounds
herb.
really nice.
Yeah, oregano and basil and thyme,
Oh, nice.
marjoram,
That sounds really good.
rosemary, lavender.
Cool. Yeah.
So kind of related to that, we have 2 questions about soil. One is specific, what type of soil should you use for basil? And then another says, what kind of soil should you be using for sprouting? And what should you get to mix in the ground if they are different?
Okay. Maybe we'll start with the seed starting soil. You can use a lot of different.
There's all sorts of different ways.
You can buy like a basic seed starting mix, and that's usually going to have peat moss or coconut coir, which is like a byproduct of coconut. It's the husk And then that will have perlite, vermiculite. Some mixes will have worm castings and such. Yeah, so that's kind of like your basic store-bought one, you know, Kellogg mix.
I
yeah.
used to make
Yeah.
a mix, and
Totally.
you know, I got the formula from Elliot Coleman. I was following all that.
Yep.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
I just what can I get over at Home Depot? Oh, that says organic. Let's try that. Oh, it
Cool.
works.
Potting
Cool.
soil.
Totally.
Yeah, I've just been using potting soil, and
Nice.
when I put it into the containers, I make sure I made a mistake one year. It's like you packed it down really tight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
you
don't do
wanna
that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But I just put it in now loosely and
Yeah.
just put the seed in, and it works really good.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
So in fact, when I got those cabbages from you last year,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, these are really good. Wow, the soil's not packed in there.
Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. Yeah.
So I learned
Cool.
that. Yeah, it's like, oh,
Right
okay,
on.
if she's doing that. I should do
Nice.
that.
Yeah, the way I'll fill those cell packs, and again, that's like either a 6-pack or a whole tray. I think it's a 10 by 20 tray with however many cells in it. I'll mix my seed starting mixture, which I also have I've done the making my own and the store bought, and it's really kind of all the same. The store bought saves all those steps and tracking down all those different supplies. And I like to take like a big trug or a bucket, put that soil, the seed starting soil in there, and then wet that soil in the trug. And then you take handfuls and kind of plop it in and smear it across. So you're filling all those cells. And then you also want to kind of tamp it down and make sure that, you know, some of them aren't only actually filled to about that high, and it's not. So you do want them to be full, but not, like Earl said, like packed in there. So
yeah, I like to make sure it's
even.
It's even, and that the soil doesn't like spill over the top.
Totally.
So that when you water, the water kind of falls into the wells and then keeps everything nice and moist.
Yeah.
So that helps.
So that's that kind of soil. And then, so there's a question about vegetable,
Basil.
like basil soil.
Yeah.
Again, I would, seed starting mix or
you just use
potting soil.
Yeah.
To get started.
I couldn't say anything in particular. of
Yeah,
what
cool.
kind of soil?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Good drainage.
the same kind of thing you'd be using for the rest of your starts. And then as far as in the vegetable bed, so in a raised bed, you're going to want generally a 50% of like a planter's mix, just like a soil base, and then 50% or so, a high percentage of compost, whether that's composted manure, compost you've made, but a really rich blend. I mean, that's the ideal, and we always try and strive for that, whether or not that actually works out. You can, if your soil is really sandy or really clayey, you can buy bags of composted manure, or if you know where to get composted manure, you can work that into the soil, into the top area of the soil. So if they want to ask more questions about that, I'm happy to answer that, but I think that generally.
So that's all we have about soil, but there is another question related to raised beds.
Cool.
They said, we have raised beds and have a hard time keeping them wet enough. Do you have any suggestions?
So that'll be, I recommend irrigation. And with that, I recommend drip line or drip tape over the sprinkler head irrigation. I see a lot of people hand watering, and I hand water parts of my garden as well, and it's wonderful. But those drip emitters are going to do a really good job of giving a nice, like, even soak over the garden bed. With a 6-inch, how would I answer that? Yeah, I would, using irrigation would help, and just having it like run each morning. Generally, like about 4 minutes will do it, but it's really going to vary on how your irrigation's set up. But do you have any insights on
40 minutes?
4 minutes.
That's it?
Yeah. If you're running a 6-inch line and space them every like 6 inches or so across the top of your bed, you can run it for about 4 minutes. It depends again on your soil composition, your orientation to the light and everything. Hi, Bee. Thank you. And then what else with that? Oh, and then also mulching. would be
Yeah,
a good
mulching
idea.
is really important.
Hi. Hey, buddy.
Oh.
Mulch is a nice thing to do. You can just use straw, chopped up leaves as long as they're chopped up. Yeah. So
Yeah, mulching is really important, especially
yeah,
here.
yeah. You don't want to leave the soil bare in the summertime because that's just going to increase your evaporation rate and burn the soil. So
Wood chips.
Yeah. Yeah, we use wood chips on the paths.
nice.
And
Yeah.
then straw in the beds.
Same. Yeah. Wood
yeah.
chips are wonderful. Use your wood chips. Yeah.
But don't dig it in.
Don't dig in your wood chips.
No, that's just on the top.
Yeah, they'll pull nitrogen out of the soil, and your plants will be hungry.
So we
Yeah.
still have a few more. There's one, and forgive me, I'm not going to say this right. How do you cast nasturtium seeds?
Nasturtium.
Oh, nasturtium.
Yay.
Nasturtium, okay.
Yeah.
How do you
Plant nasturtium.
how do you
them.
plant them? And nasturtiums are so great because they're pretty easy.
They are. Yeah.
I just put them in probably around Mother's Day outside,
Mhm.
and they're really great in pots. They don't like a whole lot of full-on sun,
Yeah.
but they're really easy to sprout in places that have maybe a little bit of shade and
Mhm.
some good drainage in the soil. And
They
they
do in containers too.
yeah, and they flourish when it gets a little cooler in the fall. They start
Mhm.
coming up alive after all
Yeah.
summer when they've been.
Mhm.
They don't like the full-on sun for sure.
Yeah, it can be intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would
those
that
are
one be one you cast out, or is it a starter type seed?
Cast it out. I would press each one into the ground.
Yeah. So that would be direct seeding at like around Mother's Day, rather than started indoors. Some people, I do see people start them indoors. You know, I think it's one of those things that they'll get a head start, but then the end product will be the same as if they had just been planted outside directly. I've done experiments with both, and it seems to not really affect things a lot to start them inside, rather than just direct seeding them in the garden around Mother's Day.
Okay, one that's not related to that, but everybody I think here struggles with. Are there any suggestions about flowers that deer and javelina will not eat?
Rosemary,
Yep.
thyme,
Yep.
maybe
Yep. Oregano.
oregano.
Yeah, a lot of the times they're drawn to moisture and they're really looking for the grubs in the soil.
Mhm.
That's why you'll see that digging activity. They're looking for those little white grubs and any little bits of protein.
And your potatoes.
And your potatoes. Yeah, I mean, sufficient
Yeah.
fencing. If you're
Yeah.
trying to grow stuff outside of your fence line, like at the entryway of your house or anything like that.
Yarrow, maybe.
Yeah, Yarrow,
Oh, really?
definitely.
Yarrow works?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know that the extension office has a good list of javelina resistant plants. I wouldn't guarantee any plant because they're very curious and they're hungry. It's a hard place to be a wild animal, I think. But that is a really good list of plants that have a high javelina resistant stamp. Yeah. They leave the daffodils alone. Those are wonderful. Gophers also leave daffodils alone, which is nice. But if they're walking through, they'll step on anything. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's why we still have daffodils out.
Yeah. Yeah. They're wonderful. Yeah.
Fences are highly recommended.
Yeah.
though.
a nice tight fence
Yeah.
too, because
Yeah.
they'll dig. And I have seen people think that a 2-foot tall raised bed would keep them out, but they jump.
They'll-
And
they
yeah.
could jump.
Yeah. So they're on a mission.
Mhm.
All right, we have another one. How do mini watermelons, like miniature watermelons, do in Prescott, and how would you plant their seeds?
Yeah, we've had success with watermelons. Takes a lot of water though.
Yeah.
That's the only challenge. But I don't know about minis, but we've had success with some
The moon
Navajo
star.
red
Oh,
seed.
nice.
Yeah, so Navajo red seed and also stars and moon.
Awesome.
We've had success with
So
those.
good.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it still takes water.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. We've grown different melons. Also, we've grown some cantaloupe and honeydew.
Awesome.
We've had success with that.
Great.
So, but yeah, I think that works. I don't know about what minis though.
Yeah, I don't
makes the
know.
difference there?
They're smaller.
Okay.
I would say that they're looking for varieties that
That
are
like here.
drought
Yeah.
tolerant,
Yeah.
drought adapted, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah, Native Seed Search,
Yeah, exactly.
Terroir Seed Company is another, they'll stock things that do well here. Things that can handle our weather, because we're not really known for our melon growing.
But yeah, we've had success with, like I said, Navajo Red Seed.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then also with Stars and Moon.
Cool.
Those two varieties have done really well for us.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's always nice to bite into a nice sweet melon that you've grown
So
and poured
satisfying.
tons of water on.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah.
All right, so I have two here. One was a response about javelina. This person says, I have lots of javelina come through and they don't eat butterfly bush or salvia and some strong herbs like rosemary. They don't seem to bother with anything with wooden stems. And then they also follow up with a question. Would you be able to follow the same process for cilantro as you did for basil? So from start to harvesting of cilantro.
Yeah. I mean, I would start it outside. It's actually more of a cool season crop because once the summer heat hits, it bolts, it goes to flower. But yeah.
Then you get coriander.
I am trying
exactly.
to start it inside this year for the
Cool.
first time, just to
Nice.
see what happens.
Totally.
I've never done it.
Yeah.
And it's sprouting really well.
Nice.
So we'll see
Awesome.
how it transplants.
Cool.
And then Earl
Stay
forgot to
tuned.
water it one day. And
Whoops.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Half of them died. but-
Oh, yeah, no. It's the experiment. Yeah, and Earl was just mentioning coriander is the seed of cilantro,
yeah.
and it's so good.
So good.
And I will also add, I saw a recipe where you take the green seed, so that's before it's dried,
Oh, yeah.
and you can mix that, you can cook with it, but this particular recipe calls to mix it with butter, and it is divine. So I
Ooh.
highly
So
recommend. It's
green
like an
coriander
herb
seed with-
butter. Yeah, it's
okay.
very good. So try that
Nice.
if it goes to seed.
So you wouldn't necessarily be starting this one like you would indoors with some of the other things that we mentioned. This would be an outdoor start, like a direct
Yeah,
planting.
I would say experiment if you're set up to really protect it. If we get a super cold snap, you like Delisa was saying, she's starting it inside now and experimenting with that with success. You can also start it directly in the garden. Now would be the time, kind of before that summer heat hits, because it really doesn't like when it gets up into like the 80s, 90s and beyond. It will cause the plant to get really strong in flavor. It turns really dark, and then it sends up its flowers and seed. So that's been my experience.
Does it like shade then?
Yeah, I would give it some shade. Yeah, keep it going.
Keep it out of that west sun.
Yeah, the western sun. Yeah, a lot of the things here, that is another thing with, we're kind of trailing into gardening in general, but protecting your garden, a lot of plants will like protection from the strong afternoon sun here.
Yeah, that's what we found about the tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that strong afternoon sun's not too good.
Yeah.
So a general seed starting thing, if you are starting a seed, should you be putting them under a UV light? Should you stick them in the window? How big should your little cells be? How much soil should be in there? Just like kind of a general overview of how you would do a starting for inside.
Yeah, so lights are a nice thing to use. You can use a shop light with a fluorescent bulb to start a lot of your seeds indoors. You can get really fancy with the actual grow light. I like to send people up to a Greener World Supply Company. That's a Prescott based local business. They have everything you'd need for seed starting up there. So that's going to be heat mats, cell trays, drip trays, lights, fans, anything in that regard. They're over by, if you're heading over to Pea Vine Trail.
Okay.
They're one of those roads off of there, like
It's a greener world.
a Greener World supply company.
Okay. Huh. I
They're
didn't know
Going
about
to
that.
show your containers.
Oh yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me. This is another thing I wanted to talk about is you don't have to go up, you don't have to buy those kinds of products like the cell packs and the flats and everything like that. Like using kind of what you have, if you're already shopping at nurseries, these are wonderful to hold on to, your 4-inch pots and any size really. And you can use these to fill with your seed starting soil. You can scatter your basil seeds in here. You can start multiple tomatoes in here, however you'd want. These are wonderful. And I mean, it's plastic. It's not that wonderful, but holding on to them and reusing them is great. You can also find them at the at Waters. They
Yeah, I was
have a
gonna say,
recycling
yeah.
bin. To the left of the entry of like when you drive into their gate. It's always full of all different sizes. So these are, hold on to them if you get them. Don't just chuck them. I have the back of my garage is quite the collection of them. And then also, this clamshell like salad containers, you can use these. I'll use these for chitting seeds, the paper towels, and then I'll peel the sticker off and then just label on top of there. Or you can also put holes in the bottom and it acts as a mini little greenhouse. So if, your household's producing these or a friend is, to ask them to hold on to them, they're really, use them more than the one time that when you get them. Yogurt containers, any of that kind of stuff. As far as seed starting, Delisa said she was starting things with her window, which is awesome. The south facing window, if you have it, you're set to go with all kinds of seed starting with that. But if you don't have a south facing window, mine's full of cacti, so I can't do seed starting there. So I do use a light. I use the AgroBright T5 lights. They're just a, strong light output, but a lower energy use. The plants love them. They're every year, they just grow nice and stocky, deep green color. So that's what I use at my house, just because we are a north facing property. We don't get super strong light at our place. And yeah, seed starting mix we've covered.
Yeah.
Watering, again, use for watering, really
A fine spray.
a fine spray is what you want. You don't want to flood things, and you'll find that if the soil does dry out, it becomes a bit hydrophobic, so the water just kind of floats on top. So really keeping it pretty evenly moist, but not over loving them and drowning them. Yeah, but feel free to keep asking questions if there are more specifics about that too.
For now, it looks like you just have two praising you, saying thanks for all the wonderful information as well as great ideas. So no other questions so far from anyone else. If you have them, you can jot them in real fast. We have a few minutes left, but otherwise, I just want to remind everybody that this will be up on the library's YouTube channel within this next week. And we're going to send everybody who's registered a link so they are able to view the recording of this webinar today, so they can view it again if they're interested. And then also, if you want to follow Prescott Seeds on Instagram, that has a place where you can learn more about the seed library and seeds and ask some gardening questions. And just thank you for everyone being here. There's a lot of thanks in your Q&A here. Thanking you all for being here, Janet and Earl and Delisa. Thank you so much. We really appreciate having you today. Again, we have the seed library here in the library. We'd appreciate seeing you here. If you have any questions about that, you can ask us directly at the Ask a Librarian desk. We'd be really happy to help. Gardening questions, probably for Janet at Prescott Seeds, but we'll get you information too. But again, thank you everyone for coming. We don't have another one scheduled at this time, but look for more in the future perchance. And
Facebook. Yeah, and we'd also like to add, you can find Earl and Delisa's farm on Facebook.
A delicious Earth farm.
Yeah, if you might have driven past it, we're at the corner of Gail Gardner and Fairgrounds, right across from the rodeo grounds. So right there on the corner. So we have lots of different activities starting to happen this year. Delisa, you're starting a
we're starting a artist in residence program a couple times a year to start out with. And we have our first resident coming in April.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
it's
exciting.
So fun.
Yeah. And we haven't been selling any produce from here yet, but we're planning to get that started here.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. We've been cultivating here for the last 4 years part-time and just getting the property ready and going. And so hoping to get going soon.
Yay.
So, right, you know, can't get more local than in town from an in-town farm. So
There you go. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for attending. We hope to see you at the library.
Sounds good.
bye.
Bye.